And it's confusing a little bit because you really do care about like giving to other people, and it's an enjoyable process to plan for them. But some of that resentment can build up when it's like, I did the most because I couldn't ask for something and I wasn't feeling like I wanted to seem like I was a person and take up space.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Camille. And this is Enneagram for the Culture, where two dope Black therapists discuss how therapy, Blackness, and the Enneagram come together. Hello, hello.
Hello.
I am excited about our conversation today. We have a really cool guest on. And we were joking because we always try and talk before we record. And we've been recording for like probably 30 minutes talking to our guests before we actually started recording. So, or what you're hearing right now. So I'm excited for the rest of this conversation. Kim, did you freeze? Oh.
I'm like, is she? No, because I was looking at our notes. And so I was like, I wonder if she's waiting for me to chime in. I'm excited too. My bad friend.
All right, let's go ahead and introduce Mimi so that she's not lurking in the shadows of all of this. So our guest today is Mimi Cole, and she is a therapist just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. She's the founder of The Lovely Becoming and the hostess of the Lovely Becoming podcast. She's the co-author of a body image workbook for everybody, an inclusive resource rooted in the role of trauma, the nervous system, and intersecting marginalized identities on healing and body image. Her work is rooted in feminism, radical compassion, validation, and an attachment-based lens. She believes that feeling safe inside of our bodies and in our relationships is critical in healing work. She enjoys helping clients understand early childhood messages and how those relational wounds impact how we show up today. She specializes in working with individuals with eating disorders, OCD, children of immigrants, individuals who are navigating faith transitions or religious trauma, highly sensitive and neurodivergent folks, and complex trauma. She completed her undergrad at Vanderbilt University before completing her master's at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Go Heels. Sorry.
Mimi has spoken for various organizations such as the National Alliance for Eating Disorders Awareness, the BIPOC Eating Disorders Conference, and on various podcasts. She has also been featured in Huffington Post and the New York Times. Hello, Mimi.
Hey, I can
talk. You're unmuted. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Yes. And this is kind of a full circle moment because I was on your podcast years ago. I think it was during the pandemic. And I don't even remember what we talked about, but we chatted. And so now I'm excited for you to be here.
It's funny because it was about the Enneagram.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It was about the Enneagram. So yay. So here we are. We're going to talk even more about the Enneagram.
Yay.
Mimi, you are dope, girl. Your work. Like, so I didn't read Camille's amazing bio before she read it. So it was really cool to hear about what you're doing as she was reading that. And of course, yes, that you're a fellow Tar Heel.
Yay. Thank you. Yes, North Carolina is a gem. And I've been all over, and it is a very, very wonderful place.
I agree. So let's get into it. Well, more into it, because like Camille said, we've been in it. Y'all are just getting in it with us. So we'll get more into it. We'll start with how the Enneagram has been showing up for us. Who's going first? Camille, you're going first?
I can go first. Perfect. So it's summertime, and one of my good friends made a little like poster board thing for me and some other friends, and it's a summer bucket list. And it was blank. And so we were to fill them out. And so at first when I got it, I was like, this is overwhelming. Because, and I think that that layers a little bit 70 because I was like, what am I going to put on this that I can actually do? Because if I don't do it, I'm going to be sad. But also, this is awesome. And I want a summer bucket list and I want to curate this fun, amazing summer. So I did. I'm looking at it right now. And so I made my list. I even talked about it in therapy with my therapist because I had to like process some things about it. And then I like put pictures of like the vibe I want. So I picked pictures of like my most recent trip. So it's like me jumping into the ocean or like me looking off and then like this other fun picture. So summer bucket list is up. I already got my first check mark this week. I went to an outdoor concert. So check. Tomorrow,
Wow.
I'm going to the Black Farmers Market. So we'll get another check. And it's going to be a good summer.
I love
so
that
excited
for
about
you.
it.
I just wanted to so how quick what was the ratio when you finished the list to when the first thing was checked off?
I finished the list last Monday night. First thing was checked off on Thursday. Got the list the Monday before. And also, 70, that took up so much brain space. Like I turned that thing over in my head. So it was top of mind to figure out what am I going to do? What am I going to put on there? Am I going to write it in markers or in pen? Am I like so many questions about, do I want goals? Do I want tasks? Do I want visions? Do I want vibes? Do I want it was a whole thing.
Who got this for you?
What'd you say?
Who got it for you?
My sweet friend Blair. And I told, and it's all pretty. I told Blair that it took up and she was like, really? And I was like, are you surprised? And she was like, actually, no. Like,
is that not how everyone thinks about things?
Mimi, I wonder the same thing. I was like, oh, other people didn't spend a whole week thinking about this?
Not everybody. Not everybody.
Yeah.
But that's a great for you.
Yes, it's been I love it. And I've actually even suggested it to like 2 clients. And they've really been like, oh, I like that. Like both of them actually want to lean more into like social engagements and building their friendships. And so I was like, what if you made a summer bucket list of things that like you want to do? And then you can invite a friend here and there. And they're like, I love this idea because, they were like, sometimes I can just get stuck sitting at home. And so, so it even has become a therapeutic tool.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Kim, do you want to go next or do you want me?
I can go. I can go. And I'm totally changing. This is not what I was going to share. I'll save that one for another one. I just thought about this when you just said sharing with clients. We went to a rage room.
Oh,
last Sunday.
Yes.
Me and my 2 very, 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 very best friends. Mm-hmm. And this was a suggestion of either, I can't remember if it was Chi or my therapist, but one of them asked if I had done anything to like
release anger.
And at the time I couldn't speak to anything other than working out, but I didn't feel like that was like a full release. So they were like, yeah, you should go to a rage room. So we did. So this is how I would say it ties into my type. There are different tools you can use for the destruction. There are bats, golf clubs, sledgehammer.
Oh, wow.
And an actual axe.
Dangerous.
Mm-hmm. It was dangerous. You have to have your protective gear on. Sign all types of consents that say if anything happens, it's not our fault and you can't sue us.
Yeah. If you break your leg or some glass gashes your arm,
you're on your own. But we were safe. I tried a bat, and the bat wasn't hitting. It wasn't heavy enough. It wasn't enough for me to be as productive. I wanted to be productive. So
you wanted to smash some shit.
I did.
That was not good enough.
The bat wasn't good. The golf club didn't work. But that sledgehammer. Ooh. So I think wanting to be productive. I don't want to be in there like wasting energy. Like if I'm going to do this, like I want to get it done. And I felt that for a whole week. My hands, my arms, my obliques, everything was really, really, really sore because that thing was heavy, but it was efficient. It got the job done.
I love that.
Also highly recommend it.
Yeah. I've recommended it to clients. I've not done a rage room, but I have experienced the power of that somatic anger release and how we don't have like socially normal ways to do that. And so to have spaces to get to do it, it's huge. And then you start crying, all kinds of stuff starts happening. You start shaking. It's the whole thing.
I didn't have the crying and the shaking, but I'm here for like whatever it. My muscles were just like wow, and I'm pretty active. It just my muscles weren't ready for that. This may be another way my Enneagram is showing up for me when it comes to this, because I was immediately thinking, man, why don't Black women own spaces like this? Like some Black women need to get together and open up, rage rooms or safe spaces for us to come in to be able and release.
Can it be called Angry Black Woman?
Can it? I love that.
And it's also a bar. So there's also places to collect, like you can be collective.
Yes.
And then there's workshops. Oh my God.
Thank you. Thank you.
There it is.
So if this has been on your heart and you're listening and you've thought about maybe I want to open up a safe space for Black women to come, and this is your sign. Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
But rage rooms are expensive, so I need the prices to be right. Because when I've looked into the rage rooms, I'm like, wait, so I get 20 minutes? I need more time. I need more. I think that's a barrier for entry. They are
costly. It was another reason I thought, like all the more reason why we should have one. Or two.
Yeah, this is good. That's a great one.
It's interesting as well when you're speaking about this angry Black women space. I love that like reclaiming of the label where it's like, yeah, because anger it makes sense, but it's always viewed through the lens of, okay, if people view us this way, let's be less angry, as opposed to that anger needs space to go.
Yeah.
And as well, the piece of why don't we have more spaces that are socially acceptable to rage, because we're running away from that stereotype instead of leaning into what we need to heal from it. And the ways in which it's been pushed down. And even in that story, it's like the anger starts to almost build up for me more when I'm not allowed to release it. Right. So when you were talking about like the gulf wasn't enough, it's like when I am filled with anger and rage for years of all these things, if someone's like, you're allowed to yell. And I'm like, well, see, here's the thing. If I start yelling and you start freaking out, that's not going to be okay, because I need to finish this. And it's going to be a big thing. So I need to get it all out and I need it to be right, because I can't just channel it a little bit. I need to go when it's time.
Thank you so much. Exclamation mark. Perfect. Thank you, Mimi.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting like,
let's do it. Let's have this happen. Rage rooms, angry Black woman.
With sledgehammers.
But I like that. I think that there should be choice. I think that's another. So there should be sledgehammers, but I like that you can have choice. And then you can also explore what tool is best for you. I want us to be able to have autonomy over our bodies and choice. So I want there to be choices.
That's fine, as long as sledgehammers are there. Because I know
I think the sledgehammers
don't have days with a bat, little golf.
I almost feel like I wish you could have a simulation before, because when I get there, I just want to be ready to know what's going to work. So like beforehand, you can have your like, okay, so in the registration process, you can pick one and be like, okay, I know this one. And when it's time to go, I know.
Go.
Look at us. We're already making tweaks.
Perfect. Amazing.
Let's do it.
All right.
Mimi, how has the Enneagram showed up for you recently?
Yes. So I have understood myself to be a 2 from when I started engaging with the Enneagram years ago. And thinking from that lens, I think that I tend to be a real big giver in some ways to other people, without thinking of myself as a person. And that can be really dangerous because I've noticed clinically recently a theme where things will come up for me in different sessions and I'll start saying the same thing. And I was actually just emailing my psychiatrist and I was like, all these times where I've been processing with my clients, trauma is not just one thing. And so because I've given so much for myself, I thought that meant that I was reintegrating that understanding in my story. But really what I was doing was I was doing it with other people. We were doing therapy for them, but I wasn't getting that told to me. And I think there's something really important to hear it from someone else, for me, where I'm not the one holding the space. And so I think part of the two piece that feels resonant in this season, I guess, is that even if I think that I'm processing through something because I'm hearing the words, I'm putting things together. A lot of times with clients, we'll talk about you're doing therapy for your friends because you're like, here's why they might feel this way. Here's why their trauma is XYZ, but they're not actually having that understanding for themselves and connecting the dots. And I think I do that too. And then I think that's where some of the resentment builds up, where it's like, I thought that I was healing and I thought that I was doing this work, but actually I was giving a lot of myself. And now I need a lot more for myself because I didn't know along the way.
Mm-hmm. That's big recognition and realizations. I think probably a lot of people, a lot of twos probably just heard that and were like, yeah. A lot of therapists yeah, we can say the thing and we can, and there's that joke, but sometimes it's true that we went into this role to like heal something for ourselves or with our families. And so someone could be rocking, going through being therapists, and then like 10 years down the road, they're like, this is my family. Like, and so like, if we're not careful. And so, yeah, what you just said is so like true.
Yep. 10 years later, you're like, oh.
And it's like, oh, I thought that I was through that part of my therapy process. I got to go into my own therapy and talk about the things that I kind of know in a way. So it's kind of odd because I think as well, sometimes when I'm in therapy and my therapist will say something, I'm like, no. Like, I know that. I talked about it with 10 people. And it's like, do you know that for you? And because part of that, maybe ego part of like, I don't want to be told a therapy thing that I know I've used for 10 years. Like, listen, I know how to be a good therapist. And I feel like that sort of can be a barrier to letting someone tell us something simple. Cause it's like, do you think that I don't already know this and use this with my clients? And it's this process of like, oh, right, I need you to tell me how it applies to my specific situation so I can really integrate that knowledge.
Definitely. I think that speaks like why it's such a blessing to have therapists who specialize in supporting therapists for that very reason, because they know how to be, kind of tender in that way, or apply just enough, pressure and accountability to help us to realize that, yeah, we can get hung up on, not wanting to or being able to see our stuff because we do this.
Yeah. That's a great, thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's real. So yeah, you'd already kind of shared that like you have, like, I loved even the way that you said that when you first started engaging with the Enneagram. But what has been your Enneagram origin story? How did you sort of get connected to the Enneagram and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I really love that question because it kind of leads to some thoughts, kind of like you were saying, you can run. It's like, I just needed a little note for myself and then I am excited to see what comes out. But I first started learning about the Enneagram in college when a friend introduced it to me. I really love this friend because we both were very similar in terms of our sort of meeting in campus ministries and being in that realm when we were in undergrad. And now we've really moved away from religion and really changed. And it's kind of fun to be like, oh, do you remember when this was how we interacted and thought? And now we are very, very different people.
Mhm.
And so interestingly, when I learned about the Enneagram, it was this narrative of, well, Christians often mistype themselves because they love to be like Jesus. They want to be twos. They want to be the kind of people who are like nice and selfless. But one thing I really thought was interesting was reading about this manipulation aspect about twos, where it's like you almost sometimes give for the sake of hoping that other people will do the same thing for you. So instead of communicating, oh, I'd really like if you surprise me on my birthday, you carefully elaborate this like surprise for someone else. And you're like, why don't you do nice things for me? And originally it's just that you really wanted all this love. And it's confusing a little bit because you really do care about like giving to other people. And it's an enjoyable process to plan for them. But some of that resentment can build up when it's like, I did the most because I couldn't ask for something and I wasn't feeling like I wanted to seem like I was a person and take up space. And so I really resonated later on with soul child theory of what's the number you became to protect yourself, which I'll get to a little more later too. But I think that's why now with learning about the Enneagram, I'm like, I think that was around the time I was starting therapy. And so I'd be curious, who is my Enneagram type when I didn't know what boundaries were, when I didn't know that I didn't just have to be a selfless person who doesn't have a self. I think that's an interesting part about like being selfish versus selfless is like, can you have a self that is equally worthy of good things? Because I think that leads to people to believe like, so I can't be at all. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I learned about the Enneagram in a very, here's how it helps us understand ourselves through the lens of faith. But it's been interesting thinking back again. And I'd be curious too. There's so many books of like the history of the Enneagram. And I think this podcast is also really hugely important to consider like who is writing and speaking and creating about it versus what it means for Blackness in different intersections.
100%. 100%. That's exactly what this question is. Maybe we want you to speak more to how that intersection for you personally of the Enneagram and Blackness or your Blackness. What's been your experience surrounding that intersection?
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, maybe like a year ago, I wrote something and I couldn't quite get it right, which is the story of my life with Instagram. I'll write something and I'll be like, I want to post it, but it's not right. And then a bunch of drafts. So I remembered and I was like, this is great. I finally get to share it in some context because it's been sitting there for a while. But
so this is a Mimi Cole exclusive is what you're saying.
Yes. Everyone's getting like a draft that has been really just like marinating for a long time. So I'm so excited. It's like a Patreon, you got to get like exclusive content. And I wrote out, because I was thinking about that two manipulation thing. And I wrote out, when we talk about manipulation, a definition of maliciously with mean intent using knowledge of someone else's established trust to hurt them. So taking advantage of like their vulnerability when they trusted you. And I think sometimes when we think about manipulation, it's like they did it to hurt you because they knew what would hurt you and they used that. But when I thought about this to manipulation, there was some parts that didn't resonate about that. And so I wrote out a new one. So it says subconsciously using learned mechanisms of scanning for subtle shifts in facial expressions and body language to anticipate dangerous feeling circumstances, like getting in trouble as a kid or feeling unsafe. For some people, the only means for connection was learning early on how to correctly anticipate emotions and how to change one's own internal feelings to meet needs for connection. Some people learned the quote unquote right things to say to make others happy and lost the ability to identify how they were really feeling, because love and belonging only came when we used that knowledge of others' dysregulation to change ourselves. Buried underneath is a lot of congruence and authenticity. And so that was a lot of words. But kind of thinking about this idea that manipulation is sometimes, I think, very rooted in this trauma and this like really deep attunement to caregivers that we had to do. And it can be frustrating because we talk about with anxiety when there's not a connection to trauma and race and all those important things of, okay, you can't mind read, you can't know how other people are feeling. But for people who grew up without emotion communication or space to feel like they could say something, then they had to sort of be like, okay, I understand that dad is getting upset and I don't want to get in trouble. And so I'm going to say, guess what, dad, I got a really good grade in school. And it's like, that is manipulation per se, because you're really drawing on what you know about someone else. But it's not because you're trying to be a manipulative, mean person. It's like, there's so much there of, I had to be really attuned to be safe. And in order to feel like I was someone that could have like pride in me from my parents, or if I could feel like they were giving me the love that I needed to figure out how to get that. And I think that shows up honestly a lot with Blackness in families dynamics, where it's like, I have to code switch and sort of manipulate and understand how the world works in a really overwhelming way. And it's not ideal. Like, it's very overwhelming. It leads to a lot of anxiety and depression and trauma, but you have to be attuned to get a little bit of what you need in this world. And I think that's something that I really love about soul child theory as well, is like this idea that what's the number that you became because you learned, oh, it's not safe for me to be my authentic self. And here's the ways in which I can get my needs met. And so I think the more layers of an identity that we have, the more disconnection we have from who our authentic self is, whether that be, okay, now I'm not only Black, which is a huge one, like that disconnects me from feeling like I can engage with my authentic self. If you're neurodivergent, then it's like another layer of, I have to mask, another layer of, I have to code switch. I have to figure out how to be my authentic self in a way that gets my needs met versus my authentic self in a way that I don't have to do anything in this world to be loved. So it's this really complex dance, I think, of trying to be this person that you want to be. And ideally that would give you access to all your needs. But sometimes the world says, here's how you can get your needs met only if you change yourself.
Mimi.
Go ahead, Kim. I'm taking.
I thought you were going to say Mimi.
Mimi. I'm taking. Oh, we didn't explain that. Now people are going to be wondering why I'm singing her name. You set me up. Anybody that loves Rent, they sing Mimi. And so every time I think about Mimi Cole, I sing Mimi from Rent. So that's where that's from.
That was in the pre-show. Yeah. So when you were reading your exclusive Mimi reflections, I got chills.
Yes.
I got chills. I think that there's something so powerful for Black people, and specifically talking to like about the Enneagram, to be able to take some of like the weaknesses, right? The core weakness for each part. So for 2s, it's the manipulation. For 3s, it's the deceit. It's to be able to take that, much to your point, right? Being able to be aware of the source, right? And who said that, right? Who's telling the story, who is offering this narrative, and to be able to be aware and inclusive ourselves of our own experience and understand why I have come to develop this need or ability to be hyper aware and attuned to, my family or my community, or even somebody I don't necessarily know, right? I'm just in the same space with you. And can be aware of those needs and kind of do what you need to do to make sure you're safe and you get through it. and not fall for this belief that that's like a bad thing. Like you said, that it's not always malintent at all. Oftentimes for us, it's something that we've learned that we had to do to be able to make it through our experiences.
I think about with twos, I think that the lost childhood message, right, is I think, correct me if I'm wrong, is I don't deserve to have my needs met. Is that correct? And what you were saying, like, that's what was going in my head, is like, I have to work, I have to manipulate, in quotation marks, to get my needs met. And then I loved the layer with the neurodivergence of like, just the amount of extra shape shifting that now someone has to do to be able to learn, or to be able to sit in a classroom, or to be able to go to do a therapy session, even do a Zoom call, like, right. Like, and that like how that all intersects with your two-ness, and with so many of, that we have to sort of shift and again, manipulate, to be attuned to what's the other person thinking and feeling.
Yeah. I think something coming up as well in all of these is that the Enneagram is a tool that I think helps us to understand who our authentic self is, and the issue of the Enneagram, and just sort of like being like, okay, here's how we apply it to everyone, is that it's not the same for everyone in a capitalistic society. And so while we want to say sometimes I think some of the goals of therapy are, here's how you can be your authentic self. Here's how we can celebrate everything you are. And people are like, yes. And when I go home outside of the therapy room, it's not safe for me to do that. So how do I figure out, like, I want to heal, and I want to feel safe, and I want to undo all these irrational sort of things, but the world has really taught me that it's not okay to do so. And so that's why I think it's this constant, we have individual work, but we also have systemic work, because we need to make ourselves open to authenticity individually and communally. But then we also need to create a space outside of therapy where it's safe to actually be those authentic selves and take off those layers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like a rage room.
Like a rage, like the angry Black woman rage room.
So like just planting the seed again for people who are interested.
Another plug.
Be it a rage room or a podcast, right? Or friendships, faith space,
affinity spaces. Yeah.
Whatever, wherever it is.
Mentorship. Yeah. Family, if your family feels safe, if your family feels like a safe place to talk about systems and race and things like that. Yeah. I was, this is a little bit of a side note, but I'm actually curious for both of you. I just went on vacation with my sister, and we were in Croatia. There was lots of white people. I think the whole entire week we probably saw like 20 Black people. Very, different place. And my family in general, we're really good at people watching, like really good. And it's also a game. Like, we'll see someone, and then we'll see that, we'll be like, oh, those are the people from dinner that last night. Like, they were sitting at the restaurant, like, but we will see them somewhere else. Or those are the people from the plane, or those, like, we're really good. And it hit me in Croatia that I was like, is that learned behavior? Is this a little bit of a, no, we had our eyes open. We're not like, and I was like, I need to ask some other folks if they experience that too, where they're good at noticing people. And like, if I'm in a restaurant, I know who's sitting around me. Like, I could tell you that, like, that guy was wearing that color shirt, that guy, like, I can kind of give you a layout of the folks around me. Now, am I really going to remember that the next day? Probably not. But I am somewhat aware. And again, I was like, is that just a me thing? Or is that a Blackness thing of like having to know who's in my space? What do y'all think?
I would definitely say, so you said y'all were in Croatia for a week and you probably saw 20 Black people. I was thinking, were y'all keeping count? I do think that that's a thing for Black people when we're in spaces and we know that it's not a lot of, not a lot of other, it's mostly white, right? It's not one of those spaces where it's mostly Black. That is a thing that I think most of us know, right? Like we come in and we kind of, okay, so how many other of us is in here, or we're the only one and we're just aware of that. You and I talked about people watching before. I think we talked about it on our trip to DC. It came
Oh yeah, because I think you noticed, like, oh, Camille, you people watch. Like, I think,
I think I said to you then, I was like, yeah, I don't do that, I think I was saying my family doesn't do it. Like I didn't remember that those were experiences that we had, but I've since traveled with my parents, and they definitely do. They definitely do. And both of my parents are image conscious, right? They're heart types. So that was something else that I was thinking about as I was listening to you. But for sure, I think that in my experience, it's probably a universal Black experience in any space that we're in to have taken kind of inventory of who's there.
I think as well, it's interesting that you said like later on you realized when you were looking through that lens, because I think sometimes we subconsciously do things and our whole experience is created by our Blackness and our identities. And then when we have language for that's a hypervigilant type of thing, it's like, oh, I thought that was just kind of how everything went. And then sometimes it can be so overwhelming to be like, oh, everyone else isn't. It's like in the beginning when you were saying the summer thing, I was like, everyone else does not just like obsess over the pieces of assignments or things or spend hours. And it's like, well, that's kind of frustrating that I didn't realize that not everyone was having this hard time or having to have this like orientation towards life, because it's almost too much to have that much awareness, because then it feels so draining to be like, it's easier for everyone else out here. And so it's like, it's wild. It's wild to think about those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It can be very jarring. Sometimes, I have the experience sometimes of just really just sitting with the fact that at times as Black people, as Black women, there's just so much that we have to think about. And we've always had to think about that white people like have never had to think about. And so as you can see, my reaction sometimes when I really just intentionally focus on that, like it's just like, what the fuck? Like,
I've noticed recently, and we were talking about in the pre-show, the notorious, infamous pre-show. I'm so sorry that anyone doesn't get that opportunity, but we were kind of talking about this idea of sometimes it's so nice to have spaces where people just can understand why something would be so frustrating.
Yeah.
Because if someone doesn't have that lived experience, then it's this uphill process of having to explain so many parts. And there's been this experience recently, and I've seen it on TikTok, I've experienced it, where I'm at events and it's like a DEI thing, it seems, where people say, look around the room, how many people look like you? And it's like, oh my God, like for the Black people in the room, that is the most uncomfortable, like awful experience. But to try to explain that to someone, because I'm like, I know that it's not going to be effective for someone to be mad at them, even though I have a right to be mad. And if I want to feel I'm understood, it's all these calculations, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like thinking, how can I express my emotion in a way that they'll understand me so I don't have to feel frustrated by their interpretations? But yet I'm allowed to feel. So it's like this complicated. And so with that example too, it's like, I don't feel like explaining why that's so frustrating of an experience. But in order to feel understood and to almost like get ahead of the stereotype of being angry, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look like an angry Black woman and that's not going to be good. So how can I communicate this like patiently? But then I'm like, where does the space for my anger at this? I don't get paid for this. It's just like so overwhelming of a constant choosing.
Maybe you know where that space is.
I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to bring it up again because I thought y'all were sick of me plugging it. But I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Yes.
Space is needed.
Space is needed. spaces needed. And you're so right. Like in that, I could imagine in that like scenario, thankfully I haven't been in that for a while, probably not since like school or something. And then I'm having to control my nervous system. Like I'm literally sitting there, like stay calm, look like you're casually looking around and that you're so engaged in this stupid exercise. But really inside you're like, one, I've already scanned this whole room. Like I already know. Two, now everybody's pointing out, it's only Camille. Oh, Camille's the only one, guys. Like, be like, oh yeah, all the way. Like, it's so stupid.
Honestly, something about that too is that like the people who it affects are already scanned.
Already did it.
We are very aware. So why are we making it worse for people who we're not supposed to be the ones feeling more uncomfortable from this conversation? It's supposed to benefit us, but it's actually just making everyone stare at you and be like, wow, I remember now that you are very different. Like if it wasn't already clear, like let's hone in on.
And then the best is when they're like, oh, there's only one person. Can you believe? And you're like, do you guys literally not look around in every single one of your rooms? Do you not? And they don't.
No, that's what we say. They don't have to.
They're like, you didn't realize that there was only one person in the room. And you're like, wow, you just walked in and sat down. Like,
yes, that is their world. They could just walk in and just sit down.
And then when we walk, I remember reading something about like, that doesn't bother them. Like if they walk into a room and everybody looks the same, it's sort of like, okay, cool, I'm at church, right? Like we're like, okay, cool, I'm in my club. Or like, okay, cool, I'm at the movie theaters. Like it's just sort of like, okay, cool. And for us, like it's like, wait, you don't see a problem with walking in and everybody looking the same as you? Like that doesn't set off alarm bells? Like, and not just because it's like, diversity is good. Like you want there to be diverse thought and diverse beauty and diverse outfits and diverse, like you just want different things. And it doesn't even cross unless they are intentional or have done the work or, any of that stuff. But on a baseline, no.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's everybody. I think that we know and we believe that diversity is good for us. I don't think everybody truly believes that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You never really have. Sometimes I've been recently thinking, how can I try and help someone understand this experience and try and reach across it? And so I was like, okay, what if I said like, what if you're the only person in the room who's white in a room of like Black people? But then it's like, it's not the same because then whiteness is still that standard of superiority that they'd be like, oh, I'd feel fine. Or like I'd feel, but it's not the same because there'd still be that layer and the historical and ongoing like narrative. They're not the same. And so I try to think, and then I think the pain part more recently has come of like, oh, you just won't understand it. And you don't have to, but I've had to understand it over and over again.
Yeah.
And when there's additional layers too of like, not only are you thinking I'm the only Black person in the room, but I'm very hypersensitive to noises, for example. And so when I go in the room and it's loud, I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. Not only are you not understanding how I'm the only person here with this, but I am very deeply overwhelmed. And so all these added layers, if you're queer, it's like everyone's talking about, oh, did you see your husband or whatever? It's like, well, I don't want to tell you and make it awkward, right, but let me have space for me. So it's really complicated.
Yeah. It's complicated. And that's interesting, like with that original question of like, how does it intersect? And just that idea that like our identity, I loved what you said. There was a part that you said like the Enneagram, but it is individual as well, because we have individual identities that intersect with our type and then create different ways that we show up in the world. Hi, Camille here. I hope you all have been enjoying season 3 as much as Kim and I enjoyed recording it. New this season that I wanted to share is that I will now be offering one-on-one Enneagram consultations. What that means is that if you have any specific and unique questions or curiosities related to the Enneagram, how it shows up for you, how you use it at work, in relationships, how you can use it for growth, or if you need some focused help on even learning your type, then we can meet for 90 minutes to answer those questions. I love doing these as I get to deep dive into your questions and provide you with custom and tailored answers that we get to discuss together. If you're interested, you can reach out to me via social media or in the show notes. You can find my email. I'm excited to get to meet some of you in this personal format and get to be a part of your Enneagram journey. Now, back to the show. Love this. Love this. I did want to ask, like, with thinking about Blackness and identities and that identity, especially, what is sort of your hope as we're talking about some of the frustrations of things, but what's your hope for Black people around the growth work that they are doing, whether it's through the Enneagram or other types of personal development? And what would that hope be individually? And then, like you said, also beautifully, like for the culture, like as a collective.
Yeah. I think, well, this is kind of a funny example, but the eights being very intense in all of the stereotypes. I think that has interesting intersections with Blackness and stereotypes of, I think about, I'm trying to lay this out well. So when we think about people being more blunt, for example, I think about like the idea of, oh, Black moms or Black men are just very blunt. And sometimes I think part of that is that it's just too much nonsense day in, day out to try to be soft and nice and all those things. And what I think an issue I see that ends up happening is that people, for example, who grow up in predominantly white spaces start to learn, like, here's what a healthy parenting relationship looks like. They shouldn't yell at you. They shouldn't XYZ. But a lot of ways they were forced to become these ways because of racism and systems. And so another thing I think about that I think will help tie this back is reading about colonialism and how parenting was before racism, and how like a lot of therapy ideas have a lot of work to do in understanding what is created out of protectiveness and what is actually linked to culture and Blackness. And so I think it does a disservice to people to be able to find more connection and safety and safe spaces within racial spaces of like Black spaces, for example, because it's like we perpetuate these systems where Black people have less capacity for not being assertive or punishing or whatnot. And then some Black people who are in very white spaces are like, well, I don't want to be with the Black people who are angry. And it's like they're continuing to be more angry because their needs are not met, their needs are not taken care of. And we're making this world where they're not able to rest, and we're not able to be gentle and compassionate and soft. And so it's this kind of cyclical, like, we're going to make it worse for the Black people so that some Black people who are in our white spaces don't feel like even their own people are safe for them. And create this divide within the community to be like, well, we want to separate ourselves from Black people because the Black image and the way that we've created and forced conditions for Black people, we want to make that as not desirable as possible so that even Black people will come into the white spaces and feel like superior.
So your hope for Black people.
Because yes. Co-sign.
Because all that is like, yeah. So.
My hope is that we can, for example, going back with the 8 thing, it's like, it's an easy way for me to be like, that's not a bad thing. That is just it is an easier way for me to understand someone who is upset with me to be like, that's an 8. I understand, like, it's not because they're a mad person. It's because they're a bold person. And I can be like, okay, now that we're through that barrier of me feeling scared, I can see you for what you are and where you're coming from. And so I think in terms of having these tools where it's like, here's how we sort of unpack what is authenticity and what is Blackness, and that can look different. And here's what it's been forced to become in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
You can be Black, you can understand and celebrate your family culture, and because you can see it in a celebratory framework versus a framework of, oh yeah, that's bad and that's going to take away your needs if you hang out with other people who are like you.
Mm-hmm.
It allows more space for people to less pathologize Blackness and less pathologize all its intersections, and make meaningful connections with race.
So for us to be able to essentially like connect with authentic Blackness, to be able to distinguish that from things maybe that may be labeled as Black and missed, that it's actually out of protective measures that we've had to develop this over, generations and generations. So for us to be able to distinguish the two.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
spanking, like people are always like, either they say it's very therapeutic, it's not therapeutic for you to spank your kids. And people are like, well, I mean, they're not paying attention. And I can't go through the whole gentle parenting if I'm already dealing with racism in the workplace and all these things. And it's like, Blackness was not necessarily about being more physically punishment. Like that was never a part of it, but it's become something that has become almost like a feeling of necessity. And when I've tried to talk to like my dad, for example, about spanking, if I come at it from, here's this white therapeutic parenting guy that says spanking is not helpful for children, it's like, well, you're going to then associate parenting with abuse and all these ideas of Black parents are abusive. And it's like, they were forced in a lot of ways and part of cycles because they were abused for centuries because of slavery. And that's a really tricky association and layership. And the way out is not white therapists saying, try gentle parenting. It's systemic understanding. And there's so many pieces of that too, with like mandated reporting and being like, well, if you're not going to do it this way, I'm going to put you in the system. And it's like, well, the system's going to perpetuate a lot of other ideas about Blackness. And it's not safe for people to feel like they can engage and figure it out. So there's just.
Yeah. I think that it all goes back to, and again, in the pre-show, right? You're sharing a little with us about where, just where you're at in your work and just navigating, life. It's just so important for us all to remember to prioritize taking care of ourselves. Right. Like, as again, going back to, all of this thinking that we have to do, and as a giver and a helper and a supporter, right. Having to grapple with, wanting to be of help and support and care for others, and losing sight of your needs. And so for all of us, with all of this shit, all of it, and all of the things that need to happen in order for us to all heal, white people include, like all of us to heal and move forward, it can feel overwhelming, like we're saying. And so to just keep coming back to like, what is that we need, and how can we prioritize like regulating our nervous system, taking care of ourselves, making sure we're taken care of. And then we'll just carve out a step from there.
Yeah. And, therapy, some people have openings, wink, wink, if you're in Tennessee.
Ain't mad at it. Go to hit up.
I mean, look, that is a hot commodity for a Black therapist to be like, look, I got some space.
For sure.
People better people how they can get in touch with you, because some people heard that was like, oh, sure. I'm looking for a year.
Sure. Yeah, because we booked and busy out here.
We need it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. as you were talking about all of this too, I was thinking about something that it was connecting to belonging and disconnection, and how as humans, right, belonging is one of our core needs. Like we need to feel like we're connected to folks. And then I think about that extra layer for two, that like belonging and connection is so important. And so as you were talking about like the divides that happen with systems and the pathologizing of Blackness sometimes, and don't do that because that's going to not be good and it's going to disconnect you from people. And like, I was just like thinking about that underbelly as you were talking around, just that there's this underbelly of this is serious stuff because it's tackling or it's touching on a really core need of belonging and connection. And it doesn't feel good when we're disconnected from folks.
Huge. Yeah. Trying to connect this world where in therapy and different spaces, one place will tell you this is how you connect and belong, but there's overlapping layers. Kind of why I feel like people have critiques of Brené Brown, where it's like, yes, we all need to belong, but if you tell someone that this is the way and they can't meet that need in the same way as you can because you're able to be vulnerable and that's okay. But if someone else is like, okay, it's important for me to be vulnerable and that's how I access my basic need, and then they share at work, I'm really struggling with depression, they might be like sent to the psych hospital. And then it's like, okay, then that was even worse. They are now can't trust people. They can't belong. They're disconnected from people. So it's this really hard dance where some people, Black people, are really forced to figure out how to meet that basic human need in ways that they should just have access by being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we know you are a therapist. You talked already, quite a bit about therapy. Just tell us a little more, maybe from your experience as a client, about therapy. Our goal is to just, normalize Black people talking about their experience with therapy. And so just whatever you'd like to share about your personal relationship with that space.
I love therapy so much. I wish I could do it every day.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't wish I could do it every day.
I don't either.
I get tired.
Yeah.
I wish I could talk to her every day because I like her. Like, I wish I could just like send her like a little like tiny update and then she just say like, good job. And that's it every day. But therapy session, we're not doing that every day.
See, you want to do it. You want to do it every day.
I want to do therapy for hours. Like when honestly going into therapy, I'm like, it's only an hour. I don't even know if I want to start because I know I'm going to be mad that it's not enough time. I just like, I'm the client. Some people have expressed they're like, oh, I don't want to take up my therapist's time. So when we're running out, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going over. I'm like, no, I'm going over. And I hope that you do not stop me. As much time as I can get, I will take up.
Wow.
That's so good. Like also like talking about like, even just, I think at the beginning of this, you were talking about like not taking up space and like getting my needs met. And here you are in therapy being like, I am taking up space. I'm getting my needs met.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I think I sort of build up and then I feel like there are a few spaces where, I feel like I can take up space. And so with maybe like a friend or someone else where I'm like, oh, I could even out the sort of not burden on my therapist, but it would make me feel like I'm not putting everything into my therapist if I were to like unpack in other spaces. But I just am like, you're perfect. And I would love for you to just hold everything for me. So it is very interesting. One thing that I think comes to mind is I had this therapist when I was living in Utah, and she's so great. And I was telling her about this person that I was going on dates with, and he eventually was like, I was seeing someone else or something. Anyways, long story short, it was fine. But she was like, you really idolize like white men. And I was like, yeah, because I can't believe that he could like me. I have the hair to deal with. I've got the skin color to deal with. Like there's so many things that if this was my last chance, like if I can just get a breadcrumb of someone to like me, then I have to just like take it. And she was kind of like, you're really amazing too. And I was like, yeah, but like, I just have a lot of baggage from race. And I think that kind of speaks to that earlier piece of what has become to be something that's bad or baggage, because in a world where our hair types were equally the same, it wouldn't be like, oh, well, yeah, now you have to deal with all the natural hair products. And like, that's a lot of a person. Or, skin color, like people always say you're pretty for a Black girl. And it's like, you aren't just pretty in general. Like you have to have this layer of separation. And so I think that really plays into this idea of like, I have my mental health to bring into this relationship and blah, blah, here's all this burden. When it's like, these are things that were created to be viewed as burden. And I think an interesting piece of it is we're taught in some spaces, okay, well, like, it's not you, it's them. Like, you should just like be empowered and worthy and you're an awesome person. And it's like, that's really nice, but then no one will like me. And my choices are sort of limited. Like, I don't feel like it's fair to me to say like, but you're awesome. It's all about them having issues. But if like 10,000 out of 10,005 people have issues, I'd still like to feel admired and belong. I'd rather change myself so that I can get that admiration. And so I think with therapy, it's really nice to have spaces where there's understanding, like this therapist is a therapist of color. And so it was really something that I feel like I wouldn't be able to express, or I might have to really explain why, or I might be holding within myself, I want to say these things, but what if she has the same beliefs and tells me something that doesn't feel helpful because she's trying to say, oh, Mimi, you're awesome. It's fine. And hearing that from a white person is like, yeah, it is fine, but you don't get it because you don't have to deal with this on that level. Hearing it from a person of color is like, oh, I deeply get it. Mm-hmm. And being authentic is going to be really difficult. And I understand that.
Thank you. You're sharing so vulnerably, which we don't take for granted, and really value and appreciate, and speaking to your love and appreciation for the therapeutic space, and then specifically for the experience of working with a clinician of color, and how again, like we started off saying, we're needed. The example that you just offered, to be able to share, quite probably to a degree, a shared experience for most of us, with a clinician of color, and not have to do all of that gymnastics that we've been talking about that Black people do have to do, to just be able to just trust that because we have that shared experience, that he or she, will see you and understand you. And so I love that too for us, and love to hear people share that. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I also think that, like you said, I wrote down, like sometimes these things have been created to be viewed as a burden. And I love that you had the space for a therapist that you, like exactly what you said, like that you could unpack that and be like something as simple as like the hair issue. Like I remember dating someone and I was like nervous to like wrap my hair at night. Right. I was like, oh God, what's he gonna think about this? Right. and then it's also like, and then what we talked about, like with belonging, like, is he gonna find me less attractive? Like is he not, like, right? Because it's been created to be viewed as a burden, like and it's not like, it's not, and it shouldn't be. And But that is a real thing. And then, of course, again, we want belonging. We want to date. We want to be in relationships. We want to be partnered. And when we live in a society that creates stuff to be viewed as a burden, it creates a fear of like, but what if I'm not accepted? What if all of my baggage in quotation marks separates me more from this goal that I want or this desire of mine? And it feels like it can feel like another hill to climb because the world makes it a burden. And it's so good to have spaces where other women, other people of color can say, hey, that was created to be viewed as a burden. That's not a burden. Your Blackness is not another issue. Your hair is not an issue. You're like, and if it is,
that's not your person.
That's not your person. But that, yeah, that's a real narrative. It's not like, again, like what you said, like if a white person would be like, no, that's the thing. It's the thing. They're you wearing your bonnet to bed. And it's like, that's gonna be an issue. Like, conversation, but I put this on my head and I'm gonna feel weird. And they're gonna like question me and it's gonna be weird. But to have someone say, yes, that is an issue, but it is not a burden that should be something that stops you. So yeah, man, that's real. That is so real. So real.
Good example. Cause the amount of nights I would be at home as a kid and I would like try to not wrap my hair because I'd be like, let me see how it is tomorrow. Because maybe if like I can get them on the first night to like me and my personality, my hair will be okay for 1-2 nights. And then we can like draw them into like all my kindness, all my stuff. And then they'll be like, oh, you know what? The bonnet's weird, but like you have a lot of other stuff to offer. It's safe.
But it's not a burden. And yeah. And like what Kim said, like, then that's on our people, right? If they can't, yes. But that's a real thing to unpack. That's a real thing to unpack in safe spaces with safe therapists to be like, how do I view my desirability? How do I view connection? How do I view my beauty? How do I view who's attracted to me and who I'm attracted to? And why am I attracted to them, right? Like that statement that you said earlier of like this idolization. It's like, why? What did I learn there? And how can I unpack that in a safe place?
And the belonging piece speaks really big to me of like, if it's one thing with like the bonnet, but it becomes these multiple things that have been created to be a burden. And at some point, you're like, I would rather have the belonging and fix quote unquote parts of myself to have that than to tell myself I'm acceptable and okay as I am and then not get connection. Like with all those dating apps where they're like, Black women just don't get matches because most people think they're going to be too much. And it's like, on the one hand, well, that's a them issue very much. But when you've swiped the 45th person and you're like, you know what? Like, I just really like someone to get over them. They're feeling like a burden. And then you're like, I guess I can straighten my hair. And if that gives me belonging, then I'll like sacrifice. But the issue has never been us. It's never been who we are or what we bring. It's this really hard issue of it's been made to feel like a burden for everyone. And so how do I engage in the system now? Whew. Maybe tack on a nice like dating app perspective to the rage room, like a nice like everyone on this app has already decided they believe in being anti-racist. So like you just have a better selection.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Or in the rage, like if you're on the apps, you get like 10% off at the rage room because we know that you have things to rage against. So you come on over, sis. Come on over. After you swipe that 45th person, you started wondering about straightening your hair. Please come. That's a little pop-up's going to come up. Then go, hold on. Come to the rage room, then reconsider.
That's really good, Mimi. Really good.
Because that's also real in work, right? Like workplace. people talk, like, this is a huge thing, right? The Crown Act and like all of this conversation about like, fine, I'll straighten my hair so I can go to work.
Mhm.
That, oh God, it makes me so mad. That's like, fine, I'll do it. Fine. If it means I have a job, I'll do it. Like, if it means someone's going to like me, I'll tone down my assertiveness. Fine. Like, it's just bullshit, right? Rage room reasons.
Rage room reasons.
I mean, hair is a whole,
That's a whole thing.
wild, but and then it's like the world is not set up to take care of Black hair as it is. And so me choosing to embrace my hair is not only me learning and finding acceptance within myself, it's also, well, then when I go to hotels, the shampoo's not going to be right. So I guess I'll just like get a relaxer because it's just going to make everything easier and harder in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like the gym, like, right. Like, okay, like, what do I do? Right. Like, how do I, okay. So am I going to be the only one wearing a cute headscarf at the gym? Like, and that's fine. But then now there's this issue of belonging, right? Like, oh, I'm the only one. That's annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is true about the shampoo.
Mm.
It's not very inclusive. They should give you a selection. What kind of shampoo do you need in your shampoo?
Yes. Those, oh God.
Yeah, it's so much to again.
More lotion. More lotion and
More lotion. Yes, more lotion, please. Those are too small. Can you sub out the shampoo and conditioner for more lotion?
Oh my! Add oil.
Coconut oil.
Getting the free things, but I'm like, well, I still have to pay for like extra stuff.
Yeah.
Have some shea butter, please. Give me some shea butter. Have some shea butter instead.
Yeah. Forget this shampoo and conditioner. Yeah, I don't want this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's real. Maybe at the Rage Room, we have travel size things as well. Like we have a little shop.
Yes.
And in the shop is little things that you could take for your travels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Some deep conditioner. Some.
Yep. Yep. We had another question about any gems from therapy, but I feel like you kind of gave us some gems and just even like a plug for getting therapists that can hold space and understand. And that's a pretty good gem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yes.
So tell the people.
What'd you say, Kim?
I was just gonna say, tell the people.
Mm-hmm.
Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me so many places. You can find me on social media. My Instagram is the.lovelybecoming. You can find me on my website, www.mimi-cole.com. And through either of those, you'll probably find I have therapy practices that I'm a part of in Utah virtually and in Tennessee. So you can come see me for therapy. And I have openings. I would love to have you. And yeah.
Perfect. And is there any part of your work that you just want to just shout out, that you want to acknowledge, you want to just shed some light on? You are doing a lot of incredible work. So is there any piece in particular that you just want to let the people know about?
Thank you. Honestly, I like spaces like this because I feel like I get to show parts of myself that we have these 15-minute discovery calls and I'm like, oh, you don't know anything about me. And I'm trying to push in all this like stuff and this presence and this energy. And then I get tongue tied and I'm like, this is not how I am in the moment. And so I think this is just great to be able to be like, here's who I am. And I think that I value the space that I hold for people. But it's really nice to have that space to see it.
We so appreciate you being here and sharing space with us.
Like Kim said earlier, we just don't take it lightly to share about what's going on for you and all the thoughts. And thank you for your wisdom. And I have loved getting to interact with you. We've had time together when you were at school at Carolina and getting to share space in person, but then just over the internets and Instagram. And I love rooting for you and what you're doing. And you meet those people and you're like, she could be like huge. Like, I knew her when she was at Carolina. She came and had lunch in my office, but like, then she wrote a book. And well, I was randomly scrolling. I saw her in the New York Times. So I just love rooting for you. And I've just been loved also just watching your vulnerable expression of your own journey. And I think that's one of your, like, you know, how people just have their own special sauce. And I think that you've beautifully shared yourself in a lot of the areas that you're passionate about, whether it is neurodivergence or you talked about like OCD or children of immigrants, like all these things, like pieces that you've been working on. And you do that in such a vulnerable, safe way that doesn't feel like, you know, when some people like overshare and you're like, oh, I don't think that was, you know, but like you do it in a way that's like, I've worked on this and here's what I'm working on. And here's how I can partner with and walk alongside other people as they work through it too. And I've loved watching you walk that line really well.
Thank you. It is really, that means a lot to me because I think that's something we're always working through, being vulnerable enough that we're not like asking people to heal that part of us.
Yeah.
And I think it requires sometimes that we share parts of it when we're in the middle of it. But also like, if we're looking for people to fix or heal us that don't have capacity or know us, it can come off and it can get really worse. And so, but I really do enjoy like holding space for people and some of the things that I've worked through in some ways and continue to, and just that space feels really important to me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that what people can trust, and here's what I can trust about you, Mimi, is that you're doing the work. You're like, I love therapy. I'm in therapy. Like, right. Like so it's not like you're not doing it. Like, and I think that sometimes people, it's kind of like what you said about how the Enneagram showed up for you. It's like some people are out here helping other people without helping themselves. Mm-hmm. And I trust that you're helping yourself, like which is what we all should be doing, and what me and Kim encourage everybody to be doing, but not just talking it, but actually like doing it for yourself too. Mm-hmm. And I trust that about you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Well,
you know, and the other place that people are going to see you is that Rage Room and the dating app. That's awesome. That's awesome. We love to see it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mimi.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we will see you guys on the next episode.
Sounds good. See y'all later.